Hello, good morning children. Today in this video I am going to explain class 8 history 7th chapter Civilizing the Native, Educating the Nation part 2. In the previous video I have explained what were the efforts made by British to educate, to civilize the Indians, and all those you have learned in the previous video. Now, how the Britishers used the education for commerce you are going to learn in this video. Education for commerce. After making the people educated, how they have used our Indians for commercial purpose, for making the money, everything you will learn in this chapter. In 1854, the Court of Directors of the East India Company in London sent an educational dispatch to the Governor General in India. So, in 1854, they have sent an educational dispatch to the Governor General. Issued by Charles Wood, the President of the Board of Control of the company, it has come to be known as Wood's Dispatch. So, the dispatch was called as Wood's Dispatch. By that time, he was the Governor General. That's why the Woods, it was called as Woods Dispatch. He was, what was his name? Charles Wood. So, through him, it was launched. That's why the dispatch was called as Wood's Dispatch. Outlining the educational policy that was to be followed in India, it emphasized once again the practical benefits of a system of European learning. So, what is this dispatch? These are the guidelines to be followed in Indian institutions. Okay, by European system. Okay, the European rules must be followed in Indian institutions. So, that was the set of rules. Wood's dispatch was nothing but it's a set of rules by Britishers. What were the systems, what were the techniques to be followed to educate the Indians, to make them comfortable, to make them convenient to their systems, but to the European systems, as opposed to Oriental knowledge. In spite of teaching the Oriental language, Oriental knowledge, that means Sanskrit language and literature and the Islamic, Arabic, Persian, all these literature, they said it's no need, better to teach them English, make them useful so that Indians could be helpful to the Britishers. That was the idea, that was the opinion of the Britishers. One of the practical uses the dispatch pointed towards economic. European learning, it said, would enable Indians to recognize the advantages that flow from the expansion of trade and commerce. So, for the what purpose they have come to India? For the trade purpose. Afterwards, they occupied our Indian country. So, after teaching these people English education, those people, in spite of bringing the people to work for them from London, here, if the people, Indians are educated through English medium, then it is easy and they can create more wealth. That is the idea of that is the opinion of the Britishers. For their expansion of trade and commerce, and make them see the importance of developing the resources of the country, and at the same time making more money, and at the same time expansion of resources of the company, developing the resources. Introducing them to European ways of life would change their tastes and desires and create a demand for British goods, for Indians would begin to appreciate and buy things that were produced in Europe. If Indians were introduced, European culture means they will like the culture, they will habituated to our things, they will buy the European goods, they will adapt the culture and civilization of European culture. Oates' dispatch also argued that European learning would improve the moral character of Indians. So here, this Oates' dispatch also said that it would develop the moral character of Indians, moral values. It would make them truthful and honest, and thus supply the company with civil servants who could be trusted and depended upon. If we are doing favors, if Britishers are doing favors to them, if they are helping in modernizing, and if in all the means, if they have helped means, the people who got that help, they will become more civilized, they will be honest, they will be truthful to the East India Company. This was the motto of the Britishers. That's why they have seen education for commerce also. The literature of the East was not only full of grave errors, it could also not instill in people a sense of duty and a commitment to work, nor could it develop the skills required for administration. If the people are getting this oriental knowledge only, that means that Sanskrit and Persian Islamic laws only, they will not be loyal to the Britishers. If they have been taught English, then they will be more obedient, more helpful to the Britishers, to the East India Company. And they will develop the skills for administration. They will work under the British officials and they will do whatever the work they require. Following the 1854 dispatch, several measures were introduced by the British. Education departments of the government were set up to extend control over all matters regarding education. So, after this Oates' dispatch, they have set up many committees regarding education. So that in what ways, in what were the steps to be followed to develop the English education in India. Steps were taken to establish a system of university education. In 1857, while the Sepoys rose in revolt in Meerut and Delhi, universities were being established in Kolkata, Madras and Bombay. So, by the revolt time only, they have established universities. And in which places? In presidency cities, Kolkata, Mumbai and Madras. In all these presidency cities, they have set up universities. Calcutta, Madras and Bombay. Attempts were also made to bring about changes within the system of school education. Till then, what was the system in education? The total system they want to change. Who want to change? Britishers wanted to change. The argument, the demand for moral education. Here it was a picture given, children. I will read out this. See. The argument for practical education was strongly criticized by the Christian missionaries in India in the 19th century. The missionaries felt that education should attempt to improve the moral character of the people and morality could be improved only through Christian education. So, by the time Christian institutions, what they have argued, moral education should be developed. Not only English education, if you teach moral education, then the moral values will develop and they will be more loyal to the East India Company. So, they asked the Britishers to implement the Christian education in India. Until 1813, the East India Company was opposed to missionary activities in India. So, up to 1831, there were not even a Christian university. Missionary was there. But it feared that missionary activities would provoke reaction amongst the local population and make them suspicious of British presence in India. If these religious activities have taken place in India means the revolt will happen. Many people in large groups, people will revolt. They will oppose. That's why that was the fear in East India Company up to 1813. Unable to establish an institution within British controlled territories, the missionaries set up a mission at Serampore in an area under the control of the Danish East India Company. So, first, East India Danish Company that that started a Christian missionary. A printing press was set up in 1800 and a college established in 1818. So, slowly they have started in 1880 a printing press, and in 1818 they have started a college. That means from then only these missionaries, Christian missionaries were started from this period, this time only. Over the 19th century, missionary schools were set up all over India. So, slowly they started, later they expanded to all over India. After 1857, however, the British government in India was reluctant to directly support missionary education. So, by that time also, East India Company was not willing to support directly this missionaries' education. There was a feeling that any strong attack on local customs, practices, beliefs and religious ideas might engrave native opinion. Till then they have the opinion, because in India so many cultures are there. If we are going into religious matters, there will be a strong revolt will be there, strong opposition will come. That was the feeling of East India Company. That's why it has not given direct support to missionaries. So, they have given the picture, children, Serampore College. This was the Serampore College. Okay. Serampore College on the banks of the river Hooghly near Kolkata. It was in Kolkata. Next. What happened to the local schools? So, after coming all these missionary schools, what about the local schools? What happened to that? Let's see. Will they continue or they closed? Local schools. Okay. Do you have any idea of how children were taught in pre-British times? Have you ever wondered whether they went to schools? And if there were schools, what happened to these under British rule? You may got doubts whether by the time schools were there, means under British rule, how were the schools? How people have gone to schools? Now you will get answer to all these questions. The report of William Adam. In the 1830s, William Adam, a Scottish missionary, toured the districts of Bengal and Bihar. He had been asked by the company to report on the progress of education in vernacular schools. So, he was sent to take the report of these local schools. Vernacular means on the Varna system, whatever the schools were there, to take a report on them. The report Adam produced is interesting. Adam found that there were over 1 lakh pathshalas in Bengal and Bihar. Nearly 1 lakh schools were there in Bengal and Bihar. How many schools? Pathshalas? 1 lakh. These were small institutions with no more than 20 students each. So, number of students? 20. No more than 20 students. That means 20, below 20. But the total number of children being taught in these pathshalas was considerable, over 20 lakh. But in all these 1 lakh schools, 20 lakhs, nearly 20 lakhs children were being taught. These institutions were set up by wealthy people at the local community. So, these schools were set up by wealthy people, rich people, or by the society. At times, they were started by a teacher, a guru. A teacher will be there to teach these 20 students. The system of education was flexible. Few things that you associate with schools today were present in the Pathshalas at the time. There were no fixed fee, no printed books, no separate school building, no benches or chairs. So, no fees, no fixed classrooms, no benches and no chairs. Okay, no fixed timetable also. No blackboards, no system of separate schools, no roll call registers, no annual examinations also, and no regular timetable, no fee. So you will be very happy to hear. You want to go? Yes or not? Okay. But not there, not like that now. Everything situation changed now. In some places, classes were held under a banyan tree. In other places, in the corner of a village shop or temple. So, those schools were under a tree, under a big trees, or in a temple corner, or a shop corner, or village outside. They used to conduct classes. Will you go there? No. You want AC classrooms, good ventilation, suitable chairs you want, suitable benches, and full ventilation, fans you want, lights you want. So, they are not suitable to you. Fee depended on the income of parents. That the fee collection also, if parents are very poor means they won't collect. If parents are rich enough means from them they will collect the fee also. The rich had to pay more than the poor. Teaching was oral and the guru decided what to teach. So, by the time there were no textbooks, no blackboards. Teacher used to say oral and the students have to listen and they have to recite it. And in accordance with the needs of the students, okay, so if you have learnt in one day means, it will be okay. But the students are taking more time means they have to recite that content till they understood. Students were not separated out into different classes. There were no class difference also. All of them sat together in one place, whoever it may be. They may be Kshatriyas, they may be Brahmanas, they may be Vaishyas. Shudras, by the time there was no chance. That's why remaining other three caste people. Okay, Kshatriyas, Brahmins, Vaishyas, they used to sit in one place. The guru interacted separately with groups of children with different levels of learning. So, according to the levels of learning, the guru will go. One group of, if the, very good learners are means, he will teach them one content. Average children means some other content. Poor students means some other content. Like that, the groups will be divided and the guru will interact with them. So, this is the system of Pathshala. Adam discovered that this flexible system was suited to local needs. For instance, classes were not held during harvest time when rural children often worked in the fields. So, harvest time, that means now, this season, there were no classes. Why? Because all these children will go to the fields and they will help to their parents. That's why during harvest season, there is no classes. The Pathshala started once again when the crops had been cut and stored. So, when the crops had been cut and stored, again after the work completed, then only again they will start the classes. This meant that even children of peasant families could study. So that the peasant families' children also could get an opportunity to read. That's why they used to conduct like that. New routines, new rules. So, after that, so this is the report by Adam, what he studied, what are the case studies he has studied about the Pathshalas. Now you have learnt. Now, new routines and new rules. Up to the mid-19th century, the company was concerned primarily with higher education. So, it allowed the local Pathshalas to function without much interference. So, here, for this commerce purpose or whatever it may be, East India Company has focused only on higher education. That's why there was no interference in the local Pathshalas. After 1854, the company decided to improve the system of vernacular education. So, these local Pathshalas also should develop. That was the opinion of East India Company. It felt that this could be done by introducing order within the system, imposing routines, establishing rules, ensuring regular inspections. So it want to inspect those schools, it want to change the system, those Pathshala system. Regular checkups should be there, and to set up, it thought to set some rules and regulations that should be followed by these Pathshalas, vernacular Pathshalas education. How was this to be done? What measures did the company undertake? It appointed a number of government pandits, each in charge of looking after four to five schools. So it has appointed a pandit so that how many schools? 1 lakh schools means nearly 25,000 people wanted. So this pandit will be in charge of 4 or 5 Pathshalas. The task of the pandit was to visit the Pathshalas and try to improve the standard of teaching. He has to visit them. He has to see the improvement of those schools. Each guru was asked to submit periodic reports and take classes according to a regular timetable. So, timetable system they have implemented. Teaching was now to be based on textbooks and learning to be tested through a system of annual examinations. So, they have given textbooks, and at the final stage after the teaching, examination should be there so that to test the knowledge level of the students. Students were asked to pay a regular fee, attend regular classes, sit on fixed seats, and obey the new rules of discipline. So all this now, whatever you are now facing, this system was introduced by this England people, East India Company. Pathshalas which accepted the new rules were supported through government grants. So in these Pathshalas who accepted these rules, and they have they have got the support of the government. That means they have given funds for the development of these Pathshalas. Those who were unwilling to work within the new system received no government support. But there were some schools which don't want to work together with East India Company. They did not get any government fund. Over time, gurus who wanted to retain their independence found it difficult to compete with the government aided and regulated Pathshalas. So afterwards, these gurus who are running over these Pathshalas individually, those who want to independent, they faced so many difficulties and they faced a big competition with these government aided schools and regulated Pathshalas. The new rules and routines had another consequence. In the earlier system, children from poor peasant families had been able to go to Pathshalas. By the time there is no fee. That's why many peasant poor families children also they have gone there and they have got education. But here fixed timetable, fixed fee is there. Fee should be collected. That means many poor families they were not able to study. The discipline of the new system demanded regular attendance even during harvest time when children of poor families had to work in the fields, and at the same time there was no holidays during the harvest time. So that time also children should go. But what about the poor peasant families? By that time they used to take the help of these children. But now it is not possible. Inability to attend school came to be seen as indiscipline, as evidence of the lack of desire to learn. So their condition was not supporting, but that was seen as indiscipline. They don't have desire to learn. That's why those children are going to fields. That was the opinion made by the East India Company. So this is about education children. Next, what about the national education? Everything I will explain in the next video. I hope till now you understood the content. Thank you. Have a nice day.